Hey all, welcome to my channel. Have you ever wondered why we need to have an organized kitchen? While organizing any space, it's really important to make sure it's functional. Our kitchen is a space I spend a lot of time in, and over the years I've learned to organize this well so that it helps me when I'm cooking for my family or if I'm hosting friends. In today's video, I am going to take you on a tour of my favorite space in a home. Since I launched my channel, I've had a few people ask me when I was going to do a tour of my kitchen. So I hope you enjoy the short tour of my kitchen and pantry. Please do give this video a like, and if you're new here, do subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this tour. Let's start off with a pantry tour. A few months ago, I decided to freshen up the pantry and I used a sponge painting technique to get the blueprint on the wall. On this wall, I hang our menu plan, and I've also hung up a cleaning schedule to help me reset the home weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and even annually too. If you're struggling to get your home organized, this is a great way to start. When you divide your home into zones, it's so much more easier to clean. Starting off from the top row, I put the different variety of flours that I use, and I've also put a few other pantry supplies that I don't use on a daily basis for cooking. As we move along to the right of the top row, I've put all of the lentils that I use for our Indian cooking. Coming down to the next shelf, I have a few more ingredients that I use for our Indian meals, and also I've got things like couscous and brown rice that I use often. As we move along the row, there are containers of things that I use frequently during the week. I love storing my pantry supplies in clear containers because it's easy to see when I'm running low, and I also have them labeled so it's easy for anyone to find anything they need in our pantry. So I'm just pulling out this oats container to show you the back stock that I have of long life milk. This is really handy, especially in these COVID times. Alright, let's move down another row. This is where I store our eggs. I always get free range eggs for the family. Also in the back, I've got a few containers of citric acid that I've used for various projects. And here is the selection of various spices and baking products that I use for our cooking. And I love storing these in clear containers as well. This particular one comes from the warehouse. These containers are not just cute, but they're also airtight. So if you're looking for something, do go check out the warehouse. This Lazy Susan I picked up from Kmart a few years ago, and it's really handy to store all of the essentials that we need, like the maple syrup here, and also this pepper and me chili oil that I highly recommend if you love spicy stuff. Also some Marmite, and another great Wellington product is this brand Fix and Fog. They have the best peanut butter, so if you ever see this brand, make sure you grab a jar. So all the way in the back there, I store things like poppadoms and also Indian pickle. Moving along the shelf, there's breadcrumbs and some nuts as well. Now this area in my shelf is one of my favorites because that's where I store all of the nuts, the seeds, the dried fruit that I regularly use for breakfast, also to make bliss balls to add to our smoothies, or even to make the nut and seed bar. All of these containers that you're looking at comes from Kmart. Also on the shelf, I've got a few options of skewers that I use to make kebabs. I actually put them here so that the kids won't find them. Moving along, here is where I put the collagen powder, the protein powder, and also our non-dairy milk options for our smoothies and overnight oats. I've recently gotten into oat milk, and it's been a great substitute to regular cow's milk. I also use coconut milk or also unsweetened almond milk. I also have our rubbish bags in here. I've actually hidden it from the kids. I store all of our vitamins and supplements in this shelf as well. If you're looking for a vitamin C powder, the Be Pure brand is great. We also use the Good Vitamin brand for our kids, and they've enjoyed using this gummy. In the back, there are 3 hot packs that was given to us as a wedding present almost 12 years ago. Not sure from whom, but it's definitely been put to use. In the front are different options of cereal and also these oat sachets. And I make homemade granola or muesli and I store it in this container. Our family loves to eat it with some yogurt. This shelf is at a reachable height for our kids, so it's easy for them to grab a quick breakfast in the morning. Also in the back, I have a few packets of Indian breakfast options to make things like puttu and idiyappam. These are classic South Indian breakfast options. So moving on to our final shelf, I use these white plastic containers to keep things organized. In the first container towards the right, I've got spice mix packets. As we move on to the middle one, I've set aside for cans, so things like canned beans, tuna, fruit, pasta sauce, mayonnaise, sometimes even chutneys or jams. The contents of this particular basket changes, so this is what I have for this particular week. In a couple of weeks it might be completely different. I also must note in the back is where I have a back stock of pantry supplies. Back stock is purchased as a backup for when I run out of things, and it's really important to create a space for these items. This final shelf has all of the kids' things. Now in the bottom right there, I've got 2 pull-out shelves that I purchased from Kmart a few years ago. I just use them to store onions and potatoes. I also must show you my rice container. I actually bought this plastic container for the toy room when our daughter was really young, but with the amount of food gatherings we host, I just made it into our rice bucket. In the bottom of this pantry, I also have a big pot to cook biryani. I also have an electric fryer there and also a juicer. So that is pretty much a very quick walk through our pantry. Continuing on with our tour, we've got our fridge right next to our pantry, and then on the shelf on top of the fridge I've used to store a couple of things. So on the grey container on the top shelf is where we currently have all of our medicines, and in the bottom row is where I have my different pasta options. Now for the fridge, there was no major reason as to why we chose this one. It just had to fit in the space allocated for it, so we went with this particular option. I will do a separate fridge organization tour in another video. Moving along to one of my favorite shelves in the kitchen. It's a pull-out shelf with all of the essentials that I need for our cooking, particularly Indian cooking. In the bottom is where I have the different types of oils that I use. Then I've got some salt and pepper and ghee in there, and also the different types of Indian spices for the different dishes that I make. So I've stored all of them in clear containers as well. Some of them are plastic and some of them are glass containers. Four years ago, we decided to upgrade our kitchen and we went with a white and black theme, and I was very particular in getting white subway tiles on the walls. Next is our gas stove that we replaced a year ago. I think I must have cooked way too much during lockdown last year that at the end of the few weeks of lockdown here in New Zealand, one morning when I turned on the stove, only one burner was working. Also sitting here on our counter is another lockdown purchase. I know there are a lot of air fryer memes floating around, but I must say this is used on a regular basis in our home. In the mornings I can make hash brown for the kids. I can also cook burgers, nuggets, fries. I cook meat for our salad in this fryer, roast chickpeas or even cauliflower. I even have made air fryer murka, so the options are endless. I think this sign is very accurate for our family. We are definitely into chai. A Nespresso coffee machine sits on the counter as well. I also use the milk frother to make hot chocolates and fluffies for our kids and also their friends. So this is another great investment if you're into hosting. This shelf on top has all of our hot drinks essentials, so things like the coffee pods for the Nespresso machine, drinking chocolate, tea leaves, sugar, instant coffee and honey all sits in this bottom row. And then on the top we've got a couple of coffee plungers and also an Indian coffee filter to make traditional South Indian coffee. Under the stove, we've got a couple of shelves where I store our baking trays, barbecue utensils, things like cling wrap and foil. The blue container on the top shelf has all the utensils that I need to cook certain Indian food like idli, appam, puttu. I even have a paniya maker in there. Right next to it is where all of the pots and pans are. I put the measuring cups and spoons here on the door for easy access when I'm cooking or baking. This black sink was Kingsley's choice. He did not want a traditional stainless steel sink, so we went with this one. Right below the sink is the shelf that can definitely get very messy a minute after I've organized it. But here's where I store our kitchen towels, our kitchen cleaning supplies, and also the essential oils. This is a shelf that I plan to revamp in the near future, but at the moment it works fine, so I'm definitely not going to touch it. So right at the bottom is where we have our toaster and the sandwich press, both of which are used on a regular basis during the week. I put the toaster on the tray so it keeps all the crumbs in one space, and it's so much more easier to clean, especially when you have little kids who are trying to use the toaster. The crumbs all stay in one place and it's so much more easier to clean. This is my favorite part in the kitchen. I pull out all of these teacups and pots when we are hosting friends over. I think one day I'm going to have a really large collection. I'm always on the lookout for teapots and cups. This particular one that I'm pulling out was given to me by my mom. She gave me this teapot and also matching cups and saucers, and they're from Kuwait. And I'm also pulling out this really cute milk jug. I really love it. I bought this from the T2 Tea shop. If you're into teacups and pots, it's definitely a store to visit. Even this little cute little cup is from there as well. The mugs on the top are from Kuwait, and the little teacups are the matching ones to go with the teapot. And these little beautiful serving plates are in the front are from David Jones. I've just put these here because they're easy to chip, and so I kept them away from the kids. So this is my lovely little collection, and I look forward to growing it. In the middle shelf, I've got all of our drinking glasses that I pull out when we've got guests over, and also we put all of our frequently used coffee mugs in here. We got this particular coffee mug for Father's Day when the Baby Shark song was really popular and in the top of our playlist. And then on the top shelf is the selection of our herbal teas. This one changes quite frequently. moving along is our snack cupboard. We chose this particular shelf to be for snacks because it's not easily reachable by the kids. In the top we've got a few options of Indian snacks most of the time, and in the bottom we have our biscuits, crackers, cookies. I even sometimes hide chocolate in this particular drawer. Now right below the oven we have two drawers that are for the kids. Last week I put up a video on kids drawer organization where I got into a lot of detail about how I organized this drawer and also where I bought the products from, so do check it out. And in the bottom drawer has all of the lunchbox containers and bags and also the bottles for the kids. To the left of this is another shelf where I've got a few options of pressure cookers that I've bought over the years from India. I've got an electric rice cooker in there, a food processor, slow cooker, and even a spice grinder. Here's where our family spends a lot of time together during the week and also the weekends. Meals are eaten together here, our kids do their learning or coloring here, so this is definitely a space that gets cleaned multiple times during the day. Another fun thing that Kingsley added to the kitchen are these lights that go around at the bottom of the kitchen shelves. This is my cutlery drawer, which I actually downsized last month. Because we constantly would host a lot of people, I had a lot, and having a lot of cutlery meant a lot of washing, so I downsized and I think it looks so much more better. As we move down to the second drawer, this drawer has got a lot of plates, another drawer that I had to downsize, but if 15 people were to walk into my home for a meal today, I have enough plates in that drawer. The bottom drawer has all of our glass containers and lids. Turning to the right, the top drawer has all of my serving utensils. As you can see, I've got a few different options in there, some stainless steel and also some plastic options. And I also have things like a falafel mold, that's what I'm just holding on to there. I also have a can opener in here, a peeler, some scissors. In this little container I've got molds to make murka or even idiyappam. And on the right there I've got some tongs and also a cheese slicer. I also have my potato masher in there. So quite a few things that I use on a regular basis. Moving on to the second drawer, there are more cooking utensils. Again, a drawer that I use on a very regular basis in our kitchen. I've used clear storage containers that I bought from Kmart for both of these drawers just to make them look organized, and it's so much more easier to find when I've sort of divided them up into different containers. So instead of dumping everything into one container, it's so much more easier to access and find things. So these are the two drawers for our utensils, and the final drawer has got some bowls. I'm actually on the hunt for some nice bowls, so this drawer will soon look a little different. Those red bowls were actually given to us by my mom 11 years ago when we bought our first home here in Wellington, New Zealand. That brings us to the end of this kitchen tour. I've left out a few shelves and also my extension pantry cupboard, but I'm pretty certain you will see it in one of my upcoming videos. If you enjoyed this tour, do give this video a like. If you have a question or a comment, do leave it down in the comment section below. And if you're new here, I would love it if you check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all with a brand new video next Wednesday.